Eagles Entertainment.
The journey of the draft is driven by AAA. AAA, roadside is their strong side. Make AAA a part of your game day today. AAA, go ahead.
With the 21st pick in the NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select...
You're listening to the Journey to the Draft podcast.
Welcome to the Journey to the Draft podcast, driven by AAA. I'm your host, Fran Duffy, and Senior Bowl practice kicks off today down in Mobile, Alabama. Weigh-ins Tuesday morning. We'll cover that in Wednesday's show. We'll provide our biggest takeaways from the day's worth of practice. But we have got a fun show today before things get going because in Mr. Relevant, I am joined by the College Football Coach of the Year in Coastal Carolina's Jamie Chadwell to talk about his star defensive end, All-American Teron Jackson, who will be participating in practice down there at the Senior Bowl. Coach Chadwell will talk about Teron and his skill set as well as what he'll be bringing off the field to his new team. Then we're going to have some fun in Draft Buzz. Dane Brugler, Eric Edholm, and I, we're going to have a little bit of a draft here. We're going to draft the top players playing down in practice at the Senior Bowl. Chris McPherson's going to host. The three of us are going to go around the horn. We're going to draft three different teams. And then afterwards, we're going to have Ben Fennell really tell us how we did. It's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. It'll be our way to kind of preview who the top prospects are in this game. So make sure you stay tuned for that at the end of the show after the interview with Coach Chadwell. Before we get things started, just want to remind you once again about jumping onto our Apple Podcast page and doing us the favor of leaving a question, leaving a comment. Whether you have a question about a specific player or if you've got a mock draft for us to react to, a comment about any of the exclusive interviews we're getting this week. By the way, if you haven't already, make sure you go back and listen to the Monday episode. We caught up with Eagles Assistant Director of Player Personnel, Ian Cunningham, just to talk about how important this week is, even more important than a normal year. And then we've got Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi to talk about the three Pitt Panthers that are down in Mobile as well. But a lot of great interviews we've got in the rack for you guys here this week. Excited to get coverage going every single day here on the Journey to the Draft podcast, driven by AAA. All right, let's get this episode going. Let's start things off with Mr. Relevant and Jamie Chadwell.
It's time for Mr. Relevant.
Well, excited to welcome in the 2020 Coach of the Year in college football, Coach Jamie Chadwell here from Coastal Carolina. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, this is an honor. I appreciate you having me on.
So let's talk through Teron Jackson heading down to Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Obviously a huge part of your team during your tenure down there at Coastal Carolina. There's two phases of this, right? There's the on-field and the off-field. And I want to start between the lines here. What does he bring to the table? Well, what's a quick scouting report on Teron and what he can bring to his future NFL team?
Well, he's going to play with relentless energy. I think that's the best talent he has. He's relentless in everything he does. He practices hard. He lifts hard. He's intelligent. He's got a motor that just keeps going. And what he might not have in maybe length or overall talent, he makes up because his motor is just constantly on.
That's the thing about watching him on film, Coach. The violence and the urgency were two words I kept writing down over and over, like blue ink, red ink. Like the guy is just going 100 miles an hour. Is that something that you feel is just contagious to the rest of the guys, not just along that line, but on the rest of the defense as well?
100%. You know, the way he practices and the way he lifts, the way he studies, you can't help but raise your game up because, you know, your best player who's, you know, All-American and a two-time All-Conference, maybe three-time, I can't remember now. He practiced every day like he was trying to earn a spot, you know. And when you have your best player doing that, you know you got a really strong culture. And he was contagious, and just the way he led and the energy that he played with, and then I think that's a big reason why we had success this year.
Coach, he ended up in his career with just under 25 sacks over the course of his career, a 3-year starter, I believe. When it comes to his ability to get after the quarterback, obviously that's what everybody's looking for all around, not just the NFL, but all around football. What is it about his ability to be able to get home and finish that stood out to you in the time that you had him?
Well, I think one, you know, just the way the get off that he has of attacking the tackle and getting the quarterback is exceptional. Then you add in the motor, the never quitting part of it, and then I think he does a good job of having a counter move. You know, I think he has a plan, and sometimes that plan doesn't work. He's been coached well enough. He knows what to go to, and I think sometimes you see a guy that got one move, and if it gets stopped, they got nothing else. But you know, he's capable of doing a couple different things, and I think gives him the best opportunity. That's why he's had so many sacks, you know, at the collegiate level.
Coach, the thing that stands out when you go and read his bio, just how much he was leaned on as a leader throughout the course of his career. 2-time team captain the last 2 years. He was on the Leadership Council 2018, 4-time game captain as a freshman in 2017. How was he able to kind of establish himself in that locker room over the course of your career? You got there, I believe, after he was recruited. So what did you see from him early on to make you give you that faith that he would be that kind of player for you?
Well, early on, he didn't say a lot. It was really more so just the work ethic. He came in at, 210 pounds or 15 pounds, a 2-star recruit. And yet he worked every day to earn his keep. And I think what happened over that time frame is all these other maybe highly recruited guys, they'd go by the wayside, and he just kept working. And when you have that mentality and that mindset and everybody's seeing you put all that work in, you can't help but want to raise your game. And I think what happened with him is, even though he wasn't saying a lot from a vocal standpoint because he was still young, everybody understood how much work he put into trying to be great, and he led by example. And then what's been awesome to see these last couple of years, especially this year, the vocal part started taking over. He started being more demanding of his teammates and holding them accountable. And that, to me, has been his biggest growth. Obviously, he's played well on the field, but his being vocal and being that leader that bring people along with him is really taken hold the last couple of years.
One of the things that I'm most interested to ask you about, obviously, for fans that have gotten a chance to watch you guys play, the great season you guys had, you had a redshirt freshman quarterback playing for a majority of the season. So I'd like to ask you, just for when a freshman comes in, he wins the quarterback job. When you look at the defensive side, the veterans like Teron, what did you see from Teron in terms of helping to bring him along? Was there that kind of communication? What was the dynamic like when you had that senior-laden defensive front, with a quarterback that's obviously a little bit green and wet behind the ears there?
Well, they made it hard on him in practice for sure, and what that did is that actually gave the quarterback confidence. He knew how good our defensive line was. And there's times he struggled to make some plays, but then there were some times he made some. And two things happened. One, it built confidence in that freshman that, hey, if I can do it against these guys, I can do it in our league. But also those D linemen, those older guys said, hey, this kid doesn't back down. He comes after it. And I think he won them over. And then that gave them confidence knowing this kid's not going to back away from anything. And so I think it was twofold. They helped him by putting pressure on him, but also once he was able to go out and make some plays, the defense gained confidence in him and said, hey, if we'll do our job, offense is going to get some points.
And Coach, last question I have for you just about Teron. If there's an instance or an example of just, his love and passion for the game. I know I had read that, he had taken up yoga over the course of this past off season and trying to slim down and build up his flexibility. Were there examples that you and your staff had witnessed, say like, all right, like this guy has really completely bought in to, trying to get better as a person and as a player?
Well, it's very hard to get better as a person than him. I mean, he's tremendous, obviously, a graduate, but the way he treats people, he works in the community. He gives a lot back. Obviously, the story of losing his brother at age 9, plays for him, lost him to leukemia. That's been his motivation for a long time. And but you mentioned Yogi. If you tell Teron, hey, listen, I don't like how you are in this stance, he's going to work tirelessly, stand exactly like he please do everything humanly possible. But there'll be times you have to say, listen, we need you to slow down. This young tackle right here, you're killing him. Can you slow down? Can you slow down and give him? He's constantly trying to find a way to get better. And whoever gets him, whatever happens, they're going to find an unbelievable teammate that will work nonstop and do whatever you ask for him to try to achieve a goal. And to me, if you put in what would you want a college football representing, if it was in the dictionary, it'd be him, because he worked every day like he was a walk-on. He had all these accolades, but you never knew at one time. He never walked in that locker room demanding respect. He just went out and earned it. And then he earned it off the field by the way he treated everybody. You didn't know whether you were a freshman or, a fourth-year, fifth-year senior by the way you treated. You made everybody feel a part of that team. And to me, that's what a true leader does.
Well, Coach Teron, was just a pleasure to be able to watch this year. It was great to watch you guys and all the success you had. Best wishes to you, your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Now it's time for Draft Buzz.
All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Coastal Carolina coach Jamie Chadwell as we bring in Dane Brugler, Eric Edholm from Yahoo Sports, and our buddy C-Mac, Chris McPherson. Guys, I kind of teed it up earlier, but we're going to have a little bit of fun here on the podcast, and I'll just kind of set the rules, kind of set the table here for the listeners. It's going to be a fun exercise, and the goal here is for us to pick the best team. Basically, myself, Dane, and Eric, we're going to have a three-person draft where we're going to select a full slate, an 11-man roster on offense and defense. So each of us picking 22 players, one quarterback, one running back, two receivers, a tight end, an offensive flex position, a skill player, one of each of the offensive line spots, two edge rushers, two D tackles, two linebackers, two corners, two safeties, and then one defensive back flex. We'll keep track as we're going, as C-Mac will be our host and our chaperone here. It will be a snake draft. I did a random draft order. Dane's got the first pick. I've got the second pick. Eric will round us out with the third pick, and I'll share the rosters on Twitter afterwards, and we can all poke fun at each other in terms of who did the best job, and Ben will be on a little bit later here on the show to break it all down. But guys, I think this will be a kind of a fun roster. I don't want to keep talking. I want to keep things going here, so I'm going to turn it over to C-Mac, and we'll get us all started.
All right, no popping circumstance here. Dane, you won the right to pick first. I don't know how that happened, but there's only three of you, so someone had to do the honors. Let's kick things off. Again, the rosters, it's players who are there either playing, participating, or there in person for visits.
Yes,
so like Devante
Yep.
Smith is eligible, but certain players who are not making the trip, they are out. So just kind of wanted to clarify that a little bit. So Dane, you get the honors.
Awesome. All right. Well, with the first pick in this draft, I don't have a choice. I think there's a clear pick here, and it's Devante Smith. He's the Heisman winner. He's the top player at the Senior Bowl this year, possible top 10 pick. He is my choice with the first pick in this draft.
So it really came down to a two-person race for me here, and I wasn't sure which way I was going to go. Was I going to go Devante Smith, or was I going to go with his quarterback, Mac Jones? I think there's such a fall-off after Mac Jones. No Kyle Trask down here in Mobile. I'm going to go to the quarterback, secure the most important position in sports. I will take Mac Jones here with my first-round pick.
So we go wide receiver, quarterback from the same team here. Eric, I think you kind of figured this is the way it would work out. So you're going back to back here. So where are you going?
Of course, just to throw this thing in a little loop here, I'm going to go Levi Onwuzurike. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think he's sort of by far and away the best defensive tackle. There seems to be a drop-off after that. I was sweating out the first two picks. Glad you guys went offense. I'm going with the D tackle for the front end of my pick there, just because I feel like the next guy isn't nearly as good as he. Well, not quite, but I mean, there's a drop off there. So I'll go there. And then I'll also go defense again with that same kind of thinking in Chaz Surratt. I mean, I sort of feel like he's the top linebacker there. I know this is an unusual way of doing this, but I don't care. I don't care what you guys think.
I like it. All right.
No, I think it's interesting. I think Onwuzurike is he's the top defensive player. You can make the argument, it's top defensive player in Mobile. So it makes sense. I get it.
So with my second pick, I am going to keep the trend going defensively. And I'm going to go with a corner that I feel we're all going to be talking about this time a few days from now. And that's Syracuse corner, Ifeatu Melifonwu, his older brother, Obi Melifonwu, former second-round pick out of UConn. I think Melifonwu could go even higher. We'll see what he does here this week, but he is long, he's versatile, really athletic, instinctive, tough against the run. He checks a lot of boxes. I'm going to go with Ifeatu Melifonwu here with my second pick.
We're really going with the pronunciation guys early. I like this.
We got to get them off the board fast, and then that way we make it easier for everybody on the back end.
So you guys are really going to let me have Devante Smith and Kadarius Toney? Hold on. Wait 1 second. I need to write the thank you notes now because I have to. I'm going wide receiver back to back. You can have your Melifonwu and whoever out of the cornerbacks you want. Good luck covering Devante Smith and Kadarius Toney. Now
all right, well,
second spot.
Your second
here.
pick. Yeah,
I think you know what? I'm gonna go on defense. And I'm going to go to the secondary, and I'm going to go Aaron Robinson from UCF, who can play inside, outside, corner, nickel, can probably play a little bit of safety. He's that chess piece on defense that's going to kind of be the igniter on that side of the ball.
So Aaron Robinson, great player. I'm a big fan of his game. He just recently went in Daniel Jeremiah's first round mock draft just before the weekend. So certainly a guy that's generating some buzz. I will go offense here, and I'm going to go with a player that I feel is kind of, even though he's been so productive in college, a little bit underrated as we get to this part of the pre-draft process. I'm going to go Oklahoma State wide receiver Tylan Wallace. His ability to go up and win at the catch point, his competitiveness, even his yards after catch ability. I really like Tylan Wallace and feel that he's one of the more underrated players going down here to Mobile. Not talked about quite enough. I'll take Tylan Wallace here with my third pick.
I saw the receivers are flying off the board here.
Yeah, it's a good receiver. This group of receivers is really good. It's a very good, talented group.
All right.
And now I'm getting a little nervous here. Do I take a receiver? Do I wait a little bit? I don't know. I may just load up on tight ends and defense for all I know here. All right, let me think about this a second here. All right, you know what? You've talked me in to a wide receiver. This is going to be tricky. This is good because there's another guy I like at the same spot later. Actually, you know what?
You're back to back.
I know. I could go back to back. I know. What I'm saying is, though, if I take this receiver now, I won't take the other guy later. Forget that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep the same theme going, be contrarian, and take Creed Humphrey because, correct me if I'm wrong, there aren't a lot of centers down here. At least ones with snapping experience. I mean, you could say, Hainsey or somebody like that, but I'm not even that massive a Creed Humphrey fan. I think he's a good player. I really do. But given the disparity at the position, I got to take Humphrey with the first.
That's a good pick. He was going to be my pick coming back around the horn.
I feel even better then. All right, let's see. We're going to go back on offense, and geez, am I going to do this again? I'm going to go Hunter Long from Boston College.
You're pulling all my guys, man. That's exactly who I was going to take after you took Humphrey for the same reason. This is a huge cliff from 1 to 2.
Yeah, I'm going to wait at receiver, and I'm going to take Long. I like, Noah Gray and, Yaboa and those guys, but I like Long a little bit better. So I'll go here and hopefully I can get some real talent later.
So this puts me in a tough spot because I was looking at both of those players. Now I've got to kind of figure out exactly which direction I'm going to go. I'm going to address the offensive line, and I'm going to go with Alabama's left tackle, Alex Leatherwood, and I'm going to have him play left tackle for me, C-Mac. And I did say this to the guys, just letting the listeners know, we are filling out each offensive line spot individually. So we're not just picking 5 offensive linemen at random. We have to say when we pick the guy, which position we're hoping for. I'm going to take Alex Leatherwood to be my left tackle here moving forward.
Now, is there a chance that is he expected to play left tackle? Is there any talk that he'll move inside to?
So during the process, they've listed him as a interior lineman, and Jim Nagy just clarified late last week, I believe. No, he is going to be left tackle throughout the week. So even though they've in the watch list and things like that, they had said, oh, he could be a guard. He's going to play left tackle this week down in Mobile.
This is just me, but I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing that the only way to get him to Mobile is to promise, we'll keep you at left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
All right, Dane, back-to-back picks here. We are coming up on the end of round 4, the beginning of round 5.
All right, well, let's keep
another
loading
receiver.
Up on...
You gonna go for the flex?
Hey, why not? No, I think that I'm gonna go on defense. Let's go Carlos Basham. I'm gonna play him on the edge, so he'll be an edge player for me. And then let's stay on defense and I'm going to go Richie Grant. I'm going to go back to that UCF secondary. I'm a big Richie Grant fan. I think he is the top senior safety. I think that he could be one of the winners of this week when it's all said and done. One of my favorite players in this draft. So give me Richie Grant at the back end. Reunite him with his UCF teammate Aaron Robinson.
Look at that. You love that UCF secondary. So where does Basham fit into the overall picture of the edge rushers in this year's draft class? Because I know he's considered maybe the top senior edge rusher, obviously, down here in Mobile. But where is he going to fit into the larger picture?
I think he's borderline first, second in terms of rounds. He's going to go somewhere probably top 40. He's got that inside-outside versatility. I think you look at a guy like Rashawn Gary or a Menahu or, that style of NFL player where he in a straight line, he's really, really good. He's got a little bit of stiffness, heavy hands, love the motor. I think that directly leads to production. So there are plenty of teams that could use a player like that. So I think he's going to end up somewhere in the top 40 picks. We'll see if he gets in that first round or not.
All right.
So while you guys were talking about Boogie Basham, that gave me a little bit of time to debate with myself about who I was going to select. And look, I think we're at a point now where a lot of these guys are starting to, you're starting to get equal value here. I'm going to go with a guy that just had a huge impact on his team, and that's Naji Harris, the running back from Alabama. I'm going to take him to shore up my backfield. We're going to go Mac Jones next to Naji Harris in the backfield. I like what I'm doing here. And we also got Alex Leatherwood blocking ahead of him at left tackle. I will go with Naji here to make him, my 5th pick here in this draft.
All right.
Surprised he lasted this long, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
E-money.
All right. Let me think about this now, because I got to decide who I want at quarterback, and am I willing to wait? I'm going to go ahead and take my quarterback now, only because I just don't know if the bottom 4 guys quite stack up. I kind of like Kellen Mond, you guys, and I'd love to have you talk me out of him or talk me into him a little bit. I mean, anybody a fan? I mean, I get sort of mixed vibes when I watch him, but I feel like of this remaining group, he might be the best chance to start. I understand some people like Jamie Newman, but I don't know. Am I off on this one?
Go ahead, Dane. I'll let you take that.
It's tough. I think with Mac Jones is clearly the top quarterback, and then I think it really just it's eye of the beholder. Newman being an opt-out, there's a lot of question marks there. Kellen Mond looks like the same quarterback now that he looked like as a sophomore.
Yeah.
You wish you saw better development, but. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of Ian Book love out there. There's some people that think he's going to go. There's some people in the league that think he's going somewhere in the top 4 rounds. So, I think it just really comes to beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and which one of these senior quarterbacks you think is the top guy.
All right, I take my pick back then. All right, we'll stick with that. That's fair. I think I got to go as deep as this edge rusher class is. And there's some really good looking ones, you guys, that you can all different shapes and sizes and all that.
So let's really clarify, Eric. So are you submitting your pick there for Kellen Mond?
I'm submitting them. I already said the name. We're invested. So. Yeah, I did probably, but you know what? It's a learning experience. For my next pick, I think I'm going Rashad Weaver. I like him maybe a little more than other people do. I see something there, and I think he's a good player. And again, the depth of this class is really impressive, especially at the Senior Bowl here. You see some guys who are going to play in the league, but there's something about Weaver that really kind of interests me. I'll put him on the edge. I mean, I can obviously, kick him inside and passing downs and whatnot, but I like him as kind of that, that even front edge rusher.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the defensive end group is interesting because I feel like there's such varying opinions on the whole group. And a lot of these guys have some really big supporters in the, when you talk to scouts, and there are other guys that people are a lot cooler on. And then you talk to another person and it's vice versa. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that group is debated over the next few months. I'm going to stay on the defensive line here, C-Mac, and I'm going to take a player on the interior that I feel is one of the better players in attendance, and that is Osa Odigizua from UCLA. Heavy hands. You talk about shocker. This guy shocks offensive linemen on contact consistently. I like his ability to be a disruptor inside. He's got some versatility to be able to sneak outside as well, but I will take Osa in here to anchor the interior of my D-line.
You liked his brother too.
I did, and I took Melifanu as well. So I'm just going for all the little brothers here in this draft. So maybe I'm tipping my hand a little bit.
All right,
Dane?
Let's see, back to back here. Let's look at let's go back to.
You got an edge rusher. You got your secondary.
Yeah, I need to start investing on the offensive line. I think the top offensive lineman here is clear. That's Deontay Brown. So back to the Alabama pipeline. Let's plug in Deontay Brown at guard, and then what do I want to do with that next pick? Let's just go ahead. Give me the two. Or you know what? Let's. Oh, that's tough. Which offensive lineman do I want? Trey Smith, is going to be a starter in the league. I think I'm going to go with James Hudson at Cincinnati.
Ooh.
That's my left tackle. This is a left tackle starter kit right here. He's got very few snaps to go on, but I love the balance. I love the feet. James Hudson's my left tackle. Plug in Deontay Brown at guard, and I'm feeling good about my offensive line.
It's a nice little left side there.
Dane, I've got a player comp for you that I think it fits like a glove. What do you think about TJ Clemmings when he was coming out of Pitt?
In terms of experience,
just where they're at, like in terms of like where they are coming out. I feel like there's a lot of similar body type, skill set. It did the week wasn't kind to TJ when he came down to Mobile. We'll see if that goes different for James. I'm not saying they're the same player, but I think it's a very similar kind of storyline there with both players.
Yeah, I wrote it in my Senior Bowl preview, but I wouldn't shock me at all if we're talking about James Hudson as a top 40, top 50 pick when it's all said and done. That's how highly I think of this guy's skills.
Yep.
I'm going to go back to the defensive line here, C-Mac, and I'm going to go with the USC defensive tackle, Marlon Tuipulotu, and we're going to go with another guy who I think could be a really good interior disruptor. I'm going to pair him with Osa Odigizua. Offensive lines aren't going to know how to pronounce their names. They're not going to know how to block these guys. Run game, pass game. I like that disruptive pair. I went back and forth about whether or not I should take an edge rusher. But you know what? At the end of the day, I like Marlon a little bit more than I like the remaining edge guys. So I'm going to take best player on the board. I'm going to take Marlon T to pair with Osa.
This is starting to be not very fun because I was going to take Deontay Brown instead of Mond, and I thought, I'll take a quarterback, and then I was going to, my other Marlon was going to be my defensive tackle pick. So you guys are better than I anticipated at this. All right, let's see here. I probably should address the offensive line. You know what? As much as I like a guy like Liam Eichenberger, I'm going to go with a different left tackle here. And maybe it's a little reach. Maybe it's a little bit, a little bit projection here. But Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa, I was very impressed when I watched him. And I just think he's got the sort of the textbook traits you're looking for in a left tackle. Give me Spencer. I realize there are about 5 or 6 guys at least who played left tackle in college in this game, but
yeah,
I kind of like him. I think I'm going to put him there and feel pretty good about it.
Excellent. So you got 2/5 of your offensive line set.
Yeah.
E-money. Where are you going to go next?
I think we need some defensive back help, if I'm not mistaken.
You have nothing there.
Yeah.
Nothing in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, I was going to run a 6'5", but I don't think that's going to work in today's game. The problem is really, you start looking and the cornerback talent kind of levels off a little bit. Yep. I mean, especially with no Molden down there this week, that's a tough one. Look, I'm a Mizzou guy. I got to go Tyree Gillespie. There's some other safeties who may have higher pedigrees or more sort of higher stock and all that. But I watched Gillespie really kind of grow into a nice player over his career there. I think he's going to be even a better pro than he was a college player. So I'll go with Gillespie at safety.
All right. So 2 safeties off the board along with Richie Grant. We have 2 corners off the board. Franimal, where are we looking to go? We're in the middle of the 8th round here.
This is getting interesting. I'm going to stick my board here. I'm going to go with a guy that I feel is potentially the best player available. And I'm going to go with offensive guard Trey Smith from Tennessee to be my left guard. So I'm going to go Alex Leatherwood at left tackle, Trey Smith at left guard, and we'll keep going. You can't go wrong with beefing up the trenches.
Look at that. So you're
if you didn't take him there, I probably would have. So I think
that makes me feel good.
That's a good call.
One thing I want to know real quick here, Fran, do you have a board for every player for all 60?
I don't want to get. I'm not giving away what my strategy is right now.
All right. You said I'm staying true to the board. I'm like, is this fluff or I'm surprised there's not a tab here on this Google Doc that accidentally is like.
Well, I wouldn't put it in the same doc. I mean, I gotta work a little bit independently here. I gotta try and think ahead.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate you guys talking so I can figure this out.
Come on now. It's not our first rodeo with these mock drafts. So
no. I mean, I've got plenty of guys I like. That's the problem. Too many guys that I like here. And so it's trying to figure out, and part of the strategy here is trying to, who's going to last another round? Who's going to still be around? And I want to draft with my head, but I'm going to draft with my heart, and I'm going to take a third receiver.
I know it. I knew you were
Oh,
going to
no. Don't do it.
I'm taking my Mac guy, Dwayne Eskridge.
I knew you were going to do it.
Bless it.
And no one is covering Devante Smith, Kadarius Toney, and Dwayne Eskridge. It's just not happening. I don't care who you have. No one's covering this team. So it's a little bit early maybe to take my flex, but Eskridge is the guy, and I'm feeling great about that. And then let's go back on defense, and let's take a linebacker who can cover. Jabril Cox out of LSU. Like that fit there as one of my linebackers who can play in space. He can just really good athlete. And so whether he's covering tight ends, backs out of the backfield, even hang with some slots, give me Jabril Cox.
I was going to say, at this point, if Dane just takes anyone in the secondary, it's like who's going to be left then to cover the trio of receivers. So,
well, and that's what I'm going to go into the secondary. Eric, I'm going to give you the name first, and I'm going to say it's Hamza Nasruddin, the safety from Florida State. The reason why I'm going to go with Hamza here, a little bit of a question mark coming into the week. All right, we know that he's coming off the injury from 2019, only played in a couple of games here this season. But I feel that when you're talking about what he could be down the road, this is late enough in the draft where I can start taking some home run swings here. He could be a really impactful safety in the NFL. Love his versatility, his ability to be a hard hitter down, coming downhill, running the alley, but then also to be able to play in coverage, matchup as a tight end guy. I'm going to take Hamza Nasruddin here as one of my starting safeties.
All right, E-Money going back to back on the clock here.
Still reeling from the Dwayne Eskridge pick. That was going to be the guy when he runs a 4.2 whatever,
Yeah.
All right, you know what? We'll take another receiver guy, like different body type, different same position maybe, but Amari Rodgers out of Clemson. I love his game. I think he's a real competitive, plucky guy. I mean, not your typical lead receiver necessarily, but he was this season. So I'll feel pretty good about that one. And we'll I don't know. Do you need to? I guess I'll just call in my slot for now until I figure out what the rest of my receivers look like.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. And then, geez, the defensive tackle spot. You went with Marlon earlier, Fran, and I gotta go back there. I don't want to be weak inside. So the question is, do I trust Malik Herring to play at 275? Or do I roll the dice on a guy like Marvin Wilson? You know what? Let's do this. Marlon Wilson didn't meet my expectations this year, but I think if I had to choose between the two, I'm probably going to pick him over Herring. So give me Wilson, knowing that this is a little bit of a keep your fingers crossed kind of pick.
Okay, so E-Money's got his defensive tackles, so he's set inside along the interior. Fran, you're up 10th round, middle of the 10th round here.
I was going to wait a little bit to address my second receiver role. I was really hoping to get D. Eskridge there as my second guy, knowing full well that Dane loved him. And I was reading all the pre-draft reports. He was at the pro day. He interviewed him at the combine. But I ignored it and I said, I'll keep waiting. And I didn't. So I'm going to go with another guy that has sub 4.4 speed, 4.35 40-yard dash time for Marquez Stevenson out of Houston. I think this guy could be a legit vertical threat in a John Brown kind of mold. Really, really liked Marquez Stevenson on tape. I'm going to go with Marquez here as the lone remaining true deep threat, I believe, left in this group.
Yeah, that's a good pick. He sat in front of me on the flight to Mobile, and he's a little bit bigger than I thought. I mean,
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
Did you ask him, or you're like, oh, by the way,
no.
what you tipping the scales at these days?
No, just seeing he had a little bit more meat on his bones than I expected, and so
did he lean the seat back?
No, he didn't. He did not. So he knew the proper etiquette. So yeah, you can be encouraged by that pick. I think he's a good player.
All right,
so Dane, you are up.
Back.
All right. Well,
you got your receivers covered. You got the left side of your offensive line covered. You got one edge rusher and Boogie Basham. You've got one at each of the remaining defensive spots. One linebacker, Jabril Cox. You have Aaron Robinson and Richie Grant in your backfield. So you still need a quarterback. Still need a running back.
Well, the beauty of quarterback is I could wait. That could be my last pick.
Yep.
so I'm not going to go there. But let's go Houston back to back. We'll go with edge rusher Payton Turner, who's one of the bigger risers this year. He's huge. I mean, he's every bit of 6'5", 280 pounds. One of the better effort players this year. The pursuits nonstop. So with Basham and Payton Turner as my edge rushers, I feel really good about the motor with both those players. So then let's back that up with which way do I want to go here? Let's do. Man, that's tough. I'm gonna go with Baron Browning, Ohio State linebacker. Feel really good about his athleticism. I think he's gonna get better and better. I think he has yet to play his best football. So with Jabril Cox and Baron Browning as my linebackers, I feel pretty set at that spot.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was one of the names I was considering. However, that being said, I thought that Eric made a great pick earlier in the draft. It was the second or third round when he took Creed Humphrey, the center from Oklahoma. There was
why are you fluffing up there? Why are you fluffing
there was
up
only
now?
one. There was only one true center left on the board that I felt really good about, and that's Drake Jackson from Kentucky. And I'm going to pull the trigger here. I'm going to take Drake Jackson here to give me 3/5 of my offensive line. As I mentioned, there's a couple of these other guys. They've taken some snaps here and there at center. But Drake Jackson, the only one that's been a full-time center throughout his career. So I will take the Kentucky Wildcat here with this pick.
Good choice.
So Eric's he's got a big head about himself. Fran's praising the pick there, maybe trying to soften him a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to get, I really need a cornerback, I feel like, and that's a spot you cannot ignore. The question is who? Oh, my goodness. Let's see. You know who I like? And, he's just sort of my style of corner, kind of a feisty, tough guy. Ambry Thomas, I know he's been through a lot. I mean, I kind of like that about him. So we'll take him as our first pick, knowing that we need some help in the secondary. We'll come back to that position in a little bit. And I sort of feel like I could use a little bit of size at receiver. You know what? I mean, it's really an interesting debate here, guys, because you could go with somebody like Nico Collins, the wild card, right? I mean, he would be talent-wise. We obviously saw what Donovan Peoples-Jones did this year. But I sort of feel like Trevon Grimes is underrated, and that in any other offense in the country, he might have been featured a little bit more. He made some great catches this year. Pair him up with Rodgers in my offense here. I like it. Let's do Grimes as my second wideout.
I like that pick, and I'm kind of at that point too, where I'm looking at the cornerback spot, and a bunch of these guys are just kind of mushed together, C-Mac. And so I'm like, all right, let's take a big swing. Who's a guy that I feel has high upside, the ability to turn into an impact starter down the line? And I'm going to go with Central Arkansas's Robert Rochelle.
Nice.
Tall, long glass of water, has that ability to go up and fight for the football. Really good ball skills, impressive ability to play the football in the air. And even though he's on the bigger side, he's no slouch in terms of his ability to kind of turn and run. Was on the freak list for Bruce Feldman, ran 4.38 at over 6 foot. I'll take Rochelle as my second corner opposite Melifonwu and say, all right, I've got the ability to develop something here and really have a really strong cornerback duo. I would say the best cornerback duo in this draft between the three of us.
Ooh, look at that. Throwing some heat out there. So we are a little over halfway. We're at the end of the 12th round. We'll make the turn with Dane going into the 13th round. Dane?
Okay.
Time to shine.
Need to finish my offensive line, so I'm looking there. I got to figure out who's going to play center for me. It's.
I will say this: is Quinn Miners going to try to snap this week?
He is.
Yeah,
he's going to try. He's going to try and snap this week. Jack Anderson's going to snap this week. Okay.
Anderson does have some center background. He was the other guy. Yeah. He was the other. I think he's played like 60 snaps at center in his career. So, he's got a little bit of that versatility there.
Right. I also need a right tackle. I'm gonna go, and I also need defensive tackles, but I think I can wait on that since you guys already snapped up 4 defensive tackles. Let's go on that offensive line. Which direction do I want to go?
Remember, you get back to back, so you can,
That's true.
Double dip if you need to.
Let's go. I know this is great podcasting.
It gets tough when you get to this point in the draft. It
does.
It's fun because there's a bunch of these guys, and I'll kind of riff a little bit and let Dane decide. It's difficult because you're seeing players across the board that you feel seem like they're pretty close in terms of talent level, and then there are a lot of other guys too. Maybe we only saw them for 4 games this year or 2 games this year, or we didn't see them at all this year. It kind of gives people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain as to what teams are going to be struggling with. Obviously, not only at this stage of the process, but as we get to a few months from now, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how different teams are across the board as you're starting to talk with people over the next few months.
It's also interesting looking at the position groups, the way you guys have attacked them, where like quarterback, obviously each team's only getting one, but there's not that much delineation where you guys feel like you got to rush to the podium to get a certain guy outside really of Mac Jones. After that, it's like, like Dane said, that could be my last pick. Okay. It's
I
like
was very close to making it 2 quarterbacks to force people to make sure that they got a quarterback early, but I said, we'll save 5 minutes in the show.
All right. So I think the cornerback depth chart is where there's a little bit of a drop off. So I'm going to go with back-to-back corners here.
Wow.
Whoa.
And one start, because I need 1 starter and then 1 nickel, 1 flex. So let's
pay
go.
1 at a higher signing bonus too. When you
that's
do
right.
the
This is
contract.
true.
So
You got to keep that in mind. Let's go with Thomas Graham, Oregon corner, and then let's go with Cam Bynum.
My next guys. Yep.
Thomas Graham will be my starter opposite Aaron Robinson, and then I will put Cam Bynum as my flex because I think Bynum might be a heck of a safety in this league too. I think that corner safety, I really like his instincts. He's one of the toughest guys out there. He can help you in run support. He's a big time leader. So just I want to get that into my locker room.
Dane, do you think he could play safety this week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because that's how NFL teams see him. They see him as a safety, and so based in Jim's going to line up and have teams where the team or NFL teams want to see him, and so I think there's a chance we could see that. Yeah.
I'm going to go into the trenches here because that's where championships are won, CMAC. And I'm going to go with Notre Dame guard Aaron Banks.
I almost went him.
I'm just going to beef up the trenches here because you got Leatherwood at left tackle, Trey Smith at left guard, Drake Jackson at center. Let's go Aaron Banks at right guard. I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at right now.
I'm just getting angry here. I can't tell you guys how upsetting this is. All right. Good pick. Yeah, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. So now, you know what? Here's a good question here. I mean, I want to get a third offensive lineman, and part of me says, boy, there aren't a lot of true right tackles left. I know some guys who play. I'm sure, guys can kick back and forth. It might be a little bit of a reach, but Carson Green, to me, is a pretty good right tackle. I like that whole A&M line this year. I thought they really looked good as a unit. I got Kellen Mond at quarterback. Might as well have his front side protected by a familiar face. So we'll go with Carson Green, even if that's, maybe not the top talent on the board, but if we're just going starting lineup here, I want to make sure I got that covered. So
is he available? Is he in our?
Oh, is Carson Green not on our list?
No.
Oh, he should be though. He's
okay.
Hold on. Let's
all right, we're going to the judges on this one. I have a backup if we need to go there.
All right, I'm going to because I did check this list against.
Okay,
he's on the roster.
He's on the roster. All
yeah.
right. We'll go with Dane here.
Let the record show I had a backup ready to go. So if we need to amend this later,
all right,
do it.
And
all right.
And Eric, where's he going? Carson Green is going where? He's
right
going to be
tackle.
right.
Green is going to be my right tackle. And then, you know what? I wasn't going to do this, but he's still out there, and he's still a darn good player. Michael Carter's going to be my running back.
Yep.
I mean, what kind of style do you want? You want him? You want Ramondre? You want Kylan Hill, Chris Evans? I mean,
well, what does that mean? What does all that mean? I know you're rattling off the names and styles, but separate, for those
Carter,
who are
more quickness, more ability in the passing game. I think Chris Evans is really underrated. I was shocked how little they used him this year. I need to dig on him a little bit more. Kylan Hill, we only got to see, a little bit out of him this season. There's obviously some stuff, that have to be kind of checked with his character a little bit and make sure teams are comfortable with him. Ramondre Stevenson, obviously a bowling ball of a power back with some nice light feet too. So, these are all kind of different guys. I mean, I just feel like Carter just gives us a little bit of juice that we want in all three downs.
So I'm going to take my first pass rusher here in terms of an edge rusher. I've taken 2 defensive tackles that I feel can be dominant disruptors, but I need some guys that can give a little bit of juice off the edge as well. I'm going to go with an All-American. I'm going to take Pitt pass rusher Patrick Jones, 6'5", 260 pounds. I like his ability to win at the top of the rush. I don't know if his athletic upside is that's going to make him a consistent double-digit sack guy. But if you listen to yesterday's episode of the podcast, we had Pat Narduzzi on, and he talked about everything that Patrick Jones brings, not just on the field, but off the field. You like the total package there. I think he's a safe player, high floor prospect. I'm going to go with Patrick Jones here with my pick as my first defensive end.
Okay, Dane, you've had a little bit of time there. We're getting to the end of the 14th round. You're going back to back here. The rosters are filling out pretty quick here.
They are. They definitely are. I think I'm going to go because the Michael Carter pick was a nice pick.
Yeah, I almost took him for my flex. Yep.
Yeah, I just to because I think there's a little bit of a drop off after Naji Harris, and then I think there's a little bit of a drop off after Carter. And then I think there's a little bit of a drop-off after this next guy, and that's Ramondre Stevenson. So I'm going to snatch him up right here. That'll be my running back. Add him to my roster. And then let's go back on the offensive line, and let's go Jack Anderson. Let's pencil him in at center, but that could change. We'll see.
You can move him around.
Yeah. But let's put him at center for right now.
All right, I like the pick. I'm kind of looking through my list here.
Is this from a philosophical standpoint, building a roster? Could your flex be another offensive lineman, a 6th offensive lineman, just to? I stuck it to a skill position player. So with the idea that if you want to go with 3 receivers or 2 backs, 2 tight ends, however you want to list it. Just wanted to throwing it out there.
Thank you for the clarity. I'll tell you what, guys. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. I'm going to go with LSU star defensive player Jacoby Stevens. However, listed at safety, I'm going to put him at linebacker. I'm going to put him at the second level of the defense. I love his comfort up at the line of scrimmage. He has been an outstanding sub-package player, but on base now, you can see him on the back, playing in the post and getting interceptions, things like that. But I love his value coming down, playing over the slot against the tight end, playing against the running back, playing in traffic. Give me Jacoby Stevens at the linebacker position.
So he's done it in college. You're not like
that is not a projection. That's a guy that's played a lot in the box and has done it at a high level in the SEC. There's not a ton of projection there. I think he's got that ability to make that transition and make it pretty smoothly.
All right. E-Money with your 15th pick. The end of the 15th round here.
Yeah, and I kind of see 2 defensive players I like a lot still out there, and I'm just making sure that I still need one. Yes, I do. Like Dane, I've got to get my second edge rusher. I'm going to go Jordan Smith. And, he just – some of the high-end flash plays were really impressive. Finished the year extremely strong, great length. Guy who's pushing 6'6" with long arms, nicely proportioned body. I like him. I think he and Weaver complement each other well. That's my first pick.
And you got your whole line. Now your whole D-line is set.
I'm filled up. Yeah, exactly. I'm like Bill Parcells here, building from the trenches out. But – the second pick is, I came into the year, the Georgia secondary is so deep and so interesting to a man. I mean, you could say there might be 5-6 guys in that group who play in the league, but I wonder what happened with DJ Daniel this year. Like, why didn't we see a little better play from him, a little more play from him? I realize there's a numbers game. I think he's better than what we saw this year. and I think I feel comfortable making him my outside corner. With, he kick inside, sure, I think, but I'm gonna try him as an outside corner for now. Again, pencil only. So I'll add Smith and Daniel to our defense.
There you go. Ambry Thomas is your other starting corner at this point.
Yeah.
So there we go. Franimal.
So I'm going to finish out my O-line here, and I'm going to go with Notre Dame right tackle Robert Hainsey. And really, I'm very happy with how my offensive line has come together. You look at Alex Leatherwood, who was on the Joe Moore Award, the winning offensive line for Alabama. You get 2 Notre Dame players on the right side. Those guys were, Joe Moore Award finalists, and you look at their ability to move people off the ball. I think Hainsey's a really technically sound player. I think he's a well-rounded guy who's got the ability to be a swing tackle in the NFL. Trey Smith at left guard, love that. And then Drake Jackson at center. Feel really, really good about my O-line and feel good that I can now put that position to bed here moving forward.
All right. So Fran, as Dane's delivering his pick, tight ends haven't really been picked yet. Yep. Is it a class that not much delineation between them? Is it a solid group where they're all good? And then, remind me of last year's Senior Bowl. Where
I would say it's in terms of just this group. I think you've got Hunter Long, who's a junior, a redshirt junior who declared and got his degree, so he's eligible for the game. I think you got Hunter Long, and then you've got a drop here, and then all these guys are kind of grouped together. I think a bunch of these guys you would kind of put, all right, well, and I don't want to tip my hand here, but you might say, all right, I like player A, player B, and player C. And all 3 of these guys, I think, can do similar things. And there's some developmental players here with some upside as well. So, we'll see how the board falls. But it is an interesting position. And I think it's notable that only one has gone off the board. And I think it kind of speaks to, you have that one guy at the top. And then after that, there's just there's some cloudiness. We'll see if this week can kind of help provide some clarity there.
All right, Dane, are you changing that or?
I'm going to go with no, I'm not going to change that. I think tight end's going to have to continue to wait. I'm going to go with a couple of SEC guys here. Let's go with the guard, Ben Cleveland. It's just a big, thick dude. He's going to plug in at right guard. And then I'm going to go back to the secondary. Let's finish the secondary for me. I'm going to go Sean Davis at safety, my other safety. This guy is twitched up. I love his just relentless, urgent play style. Feeling really good about Richie Grant, Sean Davis, 2 NFL-level athletes as my safeties. Feel really good about that.
Yeah, those safeties better be good because the middle of your interior defensive line is not going to be great unless the drop-off just isn't that great.
Well, no, honestly, there is hard to find really quality nose tackles or doesn't have position. Thankfully, the underclassmen are going to help out a lot in the overall draft. But for this exercise, it's just not a strong group on the defensive line interior.
All right, Franimal, you're up.
Sure. So I'm looking at this position group. I'm looking at all around and saying, all right, what do I need? Who are some of the players that can really kind of give some additional juice to what I've got built already? And bouncing around, kind of looking, all right, well, where can I really make the biggest impact? And I'm actually going to take a running back here and make him my flex. This is a true flex player. This is UCLA running back / wide receiver Demetric Felton. And I think when you look at Felton, game-breaking speed, C-Mac, was a receiver for Chip Kelly up until about a year and a half ago, where he made that move to the running back position. Ended up having an outstanding season this year, his first full year at the running back spot. Has that ability to stick his foot in the ground and go. But really, the value I see is his ability as a mismatch player in space. You can do all kinds of things with him. I think you look at like a Nyheim Hines kind of comp. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go with Demetric Felton here as my flex option and really kind of give my offense a little bit more juice at all 3 levels.
All right, we're making the turn here. End of the 17th round. We have 22 rounds in total.
Mm-hmm.
You need another receiver still. You got to fill out your O-line.
Yeah, I think we'll do O-line now. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe we've had Royce Newman go off the board
yet.
He is still available.
And, he could play either guard spot, I think. So I'll pencil him in at left guard for now. Flexibility possibly needing to change later. So I'm going to go with Newman on my first one. All right. And then pivoting quickly here, I think I need another safety too. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct.
And your flex, your defensive
and my flex. All right, so we got a little work to do there. Fine.
Defensive back flex. Let me just clarify that. Defensive back flex. Because I wondered, Fran, when you were going with Jacoby Stevens, if you might utilize him in that role.
Yeah, I thought about it, but to me, I was just looking at my board. I'm like, look, I hadn't taken a linebacker yet. And even though there are a bunch of guys that have played a ton of snaps, I mean, you're looking at guys like, Tough Borland and KJ Britt, and guys that have played a ton of football at linebacker. But I just look at what Jacoby Stevens can be, and I'm going to take Stevens here. I really like the upside there, C-Mac.
All right, Eric, your second pick.
My second pick will be Divine Diablo from Virginia Tech.
Nice. Great name.
I'm going to kind of fit him in, I guess, right now as he could be my flex for my safety. Yep. Let's put him at the flex for now, and then we'll see how the board lays out once we've made another pick or two.
That makes sense. I think we're going to see Diablo probably take even some linebacker snaps this week.
He and Stevens are similar that way for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So C-Mac, I am going to address the secondary here with my next pick. And, I really value, you look at the safety position, who are the guys that can match up and be able to play down in the slot. I think that's a necessary trait for most strong safeties in the league these days. And there are a couple of guys I think you could say this about, but I really like what Josh Bledsoe put on film this year for Missouri. Eric had taken his teammate earlier and Ty Gillespie, who pure post player. And I like how Gillespie and Diablo kind of complement each other in his secondary. I like Nasruddin's versatility. I think you took Josh Bledsoe, who Mizzou was just fine matching him up one-on-one against some of the best receivers in the SEC this year. I mean, you could see him one-on-one against Jalen Waddle and, against Seth Williams, and they were fine moving him against some of the best receivers in the country. Sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't. I don't think he's going to be matched up against Tyreek Hill every single snap, but just saying, hey, this guy can match up against tight ends. He can match up against backs, and that's not going to be a stressful situation for him. I like that with my strong safety here. I'm going to take Josh Bledsoe from Missouri.
All right, Dane, you got your back-to-back picks. You need a quarterback, tight end, a right tackle, your defensive tackles.
So I'm looking at like what's left, and obviously I'm going to wait on quarterback, right tackle. I feel really good about the options that are there. I needed to figure out what I'm doing at defensive tackle, and you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to draft Teron Jackson here.
Yep.
He's going to be 275 pounds, maybe 280. He's going to be my 3 technique. I think he's got the strong hands where he can hold the point. He's not going to be a liability versus the run, but he's got a knack for knifing through gaps. And, he played, head up over the tackle, sometimes on the inside shade a lot. So I think he's used to, banging with the guards. Just drive Teron Jackson, put on my defensive tackle, and I feel good about kind of how I'm, not feeling great about the defensive tackle situation, but feel good about that fit. And then let's come back and let's look at these tight ends.
While Dane looks at the tight end, C-Mac, I just want to kind of lay this out there. They're just looking at the group of defensive tackles this year here down at the Senior Bowl. Only a handful that were true down in, down out defensive tackles. A lot of these guys were defensive ends that I feel like the NFL is kind of projecting inside. And I'm interested to see which of these guys are going to be defensive tackles this week. I think Teron Jackson is one of them. Is Jonathan Cooper from Ohio State a guy that's going to slide inside? Is Carlos Basham going to slide inside? Malik Herring from Georgia has played both ways. The Notre Dame kids, are they going to slide inside? Cam Sample from Tulane, is he going to slide inside? Payton Turner from Houston. There, you can go down the list. There are a bunch of them that I feel have that ability to be kind of defensive tackle, defensive end flex players here down in Mobile this week.
So let's go with, I'm going to go with Quentin Morris, Bowling Green, nice, as my tight end. I think he's a former wide receiver. They kind of bulked him up, moved him to a flex tight end spot. Really athletic player. I think we've talked about this before, Fran, but shades of Ian Thomas when he was coming out of Indiana.
Yep.
Just a really, really exciting player. I think he's the top senior tight end this year. Hunter Long's a junior, so he would be ahead of him. But I think Quentin Morris is the top senior, so I'm going to take him here and just add another explosive element to that offense.
All right, so that's the start of the 19th round. 4 rounds left here, Fran. So gotta make these count.
Just kind of looking at just playing game theory here. The only position that I need to pick where I'm like, if I don't do this, someone could jump me, is linebacker. And so I'm going to go with Houston's Grant Stewart. C-Mac, former safety, who's made the transition to linebacker over the last couple of years, has been very, very productive, great special teamer, outstanding speed in the open field. And so ultimately, when I'm looking at how my team is built and I'm looking around, all right, who are the other players that I've got on this defense? I look at the beef I've got up front on the defensive line. I say, all right, I can protect Jacoby Stevens. I can protect Grant Stewart from getting those offensive linemen on them quickly because of how the guys I've got in front of them. I'm going to go with Grant Stewart to put next to Jacoby Stevens. A lot of speed at the linebacker position.
All right, E-Money, you still need a flex player or wide receiver, depending on how you want to handle that. Your right guard spot's open. And then on defense, you still need a linebacker and a safety.
Yes, I do. All right, here. Let's see. I got to just check our list here to make sure he is available. Doesn't look like he's on the list, so I'm going to kind of hold off in the secondary for right now. I don't know that I see that one guy who I just absolutely have to have at this point. You know what? I took his brother earlier. We need another wide receiver. Sage Surratt is my guy. We'll figure out exactly where. I might be a station to station offense here. I don't know how much I'll be able to get it downfield, but that might suit Kellen Mond pretty well. So I'll do Surratt as my my Z receiver, or however we're lining him up here. And then
C-Mac Surratt is a guy that was a redshirt junior or a junior who opted out, did not play this season, and so we're going to get our first look here at him in about a calendar year. But really talented basketball player in college or in high school rather, can go up and win at the catch point and show some craftiness as a route runner. He's a guy that I think is going to be really intriguing to watch this week. It was a late addition. He and his brother both committed to the game about a week and a half ago.
There's so many of those guys who I feel like fit into that category, could rise at this position, whether it's Josh Palmer, Cornell Powell, a lot of good options there. Frank Darby, there's some good ones there, but I feel pretty good about that one. And we need a linebacker. And I feel like he gets a little bit of slander in the draft community, or people don't necessarily love him, but I kind of like Monty Rice. So I'll do Rice as I believe I need a linebacker, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. Put Monty in between Chaz and whoever else I've got there, Diablo, I guess. So that's where we're going.
So
I was gonna say at this point, let's find some guys you're pounding the table for. So Fran, your 20th pick.
Yeah. So I almost took this guy with my second safety, and for the same reasons that I liked Josh Bledsoe, I like DeMar Hamlin, and I feel like he's going to be my DB flex. He's played over slot receivers. He's handled that position for the Pitt Panthers as kind of a big nickel player and the ability to kind of match up. I like him over some of the corners in that role. I've thought about, there was another safety that I also thought about here too, but I'm going to go DeMar Hamlin, a guy I've been watching the last couple of years, was given that extra year of eligibility, C-Mac, was going to go to the Shrine Bowl a year ago, got to given that extra year of eligibility. So rescinded the offer, went back to school, now helped himself because he's going to the Senior Bowl here this fall.
All right, Dane, 3 picks to go. You need a quarterback, a right tackle, and a defensive tackle.
Well, let's plug in Taquan Graham. I need a little bit of beef on the inside of that on my defensive line. So let's plug in Taquan Graham there. And then I need to figure out which right tackle I want. I think that there are plenty of options here. I think do I want Dylan Radins is really interesting out of North Dakota State. I think I don't love him as much as other people do. He did not appear in my top 100 players, but at this point in the draft, I feel good about a player like, let's go Dylan Radins, North Dakota State as my right tackle.
There you go. All right, so your offensive line is finally filled out. Franimal?
C-Mac, I am going to go with defensive line here, and I'm looking at how my group is built. All right, I've got Oso Digizua. I've got guys off the edge as well, and Patrick Jones. But I'm going to count on my defensive tackles to get some instant penetration. I don't need the pass rushers to be speedy guys getting around the corner. Set the edge for me and make sure you keep the action in front of you. So I'm actually going to go with a player that I think is a little bit underrated. I mentioned him earlier as a possible D tackle, DE flex. I'm going to go Camp Sample out of Tulane. I think this guy's got positional versatility. I like his power to collapse the pocket, and he's got range. He's an explosive athlete. I'm going to go Camp Sample opposite Patrick Jones. I feel like this is a very complimentary defensive line.
There you go. All right, E-Money, your final 2 picks. Choose wisely. You still need a right guard and a safety.
Okay.
We could play around with the DB flex if need be, but
yeah, no, I think I'm all right here. I think I can make this work. I'm going to use Trey Norwood as my. Again, I'm sure with Diablo and Norwood, I can figure out exactly how to line these guys up. But he plays, he'll do some nickel duty and he'll play up in the box and do a little bit of everything. So I kind of like Trey Norwood there. And I'm going to take – now let me double check and make sure he is on the list here. Do we have Robert Jones?
We do.
Yep. He's a tackle by trade, but I could play him at guard. I think I would assume most people are going to look at him at both spots. Is that fair to say?
He played guard in junior college, so he only played tackle. Yeah, he only played tackle for Middle Tennessee, but he did have some guard experience early in his career.
Very good depth on that information. I'm going to take Robert Jones and make him a right guard in our 50 points a game offense here.
Perfect. Team is set. Franimal, finish it out.
C-Mac, I'm going to go Temple made here. I'm going to wrap things up with Ole Miss tight end Kenny Yaboa, the Temple grad transfer. Really like his ability to stretch the seam and get downfield. He can make plays with the ball in his hands as well. And as I get to it a little bit here, I think he complements what I've got here offensively.
All right. Now, Dane, you got all these receivers. Who's the trigger man? Finish it out.
I'm going to go with Chris Evans. We're going to run the Wildcat. No, I don't know. You guys tell me. Ian Book, Ellinger, Franks, Newman. I mean, throw them in a hat. Pull out who's your favorite. I don't love any of these guys. I really don't. And once Mac went off the board, it was kind of like, I don't know. Kellen Mond's got all the skills, but these remaining guys. Like I said, I think Ian Book's he's got some quiet love in the league. Ellinger, there's a lot of Jalen Hurts to what he has to offer. Franks, made a big jump as a senior. You got to be encouraged by that. I think I'm going to go Jamie Newman though. An opt-out, so I don't feel great about it. But what he put on film at Wake Forest in 2019. A lot of encouraging stuff to work with. So, no, I have plenty of questions and don't feel great about him as my quarterback. But considering the options, I think he's the guy.
There you have it. The draft is in the books.
That's right. So here's what I'm thinking, guys. Real quick, let's just kind of make our quick little elevator speeches as to why we like our team most. I'll start things off and let you guys kind of formulate your thoughts. C-Mac, when I look at my team, and not that we're going to ask you to rank them, but when I look at my team, the reason why I feel best about mine, number one, the quarterback. I look at Mac Jones. He's the best quarterback down here in attendance in Mobile, potential first-round pick. We'll see how that shakes out. But no question, he's the best quarterback in attendance. Now, the question with Mac Jones is, what does he look like divorced from that offense, from that system? So what my thought process was coming into this was I'm going to get Mac Jones. How do I best replicate what he's got around him? So I got his running back in Naji Harris, and I got the best offensive line in this draft. When you look from left to right, I feel best about my offensive line. So he's going to be well protected. We're still going to lean on the run game. And I feel like I've got enough speed along the skill position players. You look at Marquez Stevenson. You look at Demetric Felton. Tylan Wallace can get down the field as well, and he's a really secure threat with the ball in his hands. All those guys can create yards after catch. You include the tight end there and Kenny Yaboa. I feel like everybody there really complements each other, really kind of gets the most out of Mac Jones. So I feel good about how the way my offense was built. Defensively, I went with size in the secondary. You look at Melifonwu, you look at Rochelle. Both guys are over 6 foot. Melifonwu is over 6'1". Nazardine's a behemoth at the safety spot, and then you've got some matchup ability there at the safety spots with Bledsoe and Hamlin as well. I like the speed I've got at linebacker. I like the toughness I've got at that position. And then I talked earlier about the defensive line. It's going to be all about interior disruption and that ability to contain on the outside. I like the way my team came together. I feel like it's all in one nice little image. I feel pretty good about how mine came about. Dane, I'll go to you next. Overall thoughts on your draft strategy and how your team came together.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm not thrilled about my quarterback, but guess what? It doesn't matter. Put me back there. And with these receivers, that's going to be the story of my offense. Devante Smith, Kadarius Toney, D. Eskridge, throw Quentin Morris in there as well with what he can do. And Ramondre Stevenson, because he has really soft hands out of the backfield. You're going to run a lot of 5-man protections and just, try to make the defense stop this track team. A lot of weapons to work with. I like my offensive line a lot. I would agree. Maybe your offensive line's a little more proven, but I'll tell you what, Deontay Brown, with the steps that he made this year as a senior, James Hudson's a stud in the making at left tackle. And then I really like my right side as well. On defense, my defensive line is all gas, no brakes types of guys. They have so much energy. They're going to get after the offensive line in the pocket. Really like that. And then I really like my secondary with both UCF guys. Aaron Robinson leading the way. There's some position flex back there. So I feel good about my secondary being able to clamp down and stop whatever offense I face.
E-Money, were you saving the best for last?
Yeah, I was going to say the worst for last. You guys liked your teams. I'm sitting here second guessing every pick, but I just kind of realized as I'm looking at the rosters here as we talk, I kind of went with the opposite approach of Dane, who went with the power back and kind of the quick, fast guys at receiver. I kind of went with the quicker back and a little bit more size and length at tight end and receiver. And yes, the Hunter Long pick was a reach, but I felt like his difference at the position was worth doing so. So, and the offensive line, more of an athletic group, not a big physical slobber knocking group necessarily, but I think that'll work well with the athletic quarterback. And well, if I don't stop the run, we're in big trouble because I did invest pretty heavily in the front seven. Big ends with Weaver and Jordan Smith. 2 guys who can rush the passer inside, and Levi and Marvin. Pretty good athletes as well at linebacker, Surratt, Rice. The secondary, I think, will be defined by toughness and flexibility. I don't know that we have an elite cover guy. I don't know that we have that one guy who can shut down your number one, but I think we have enough combinations, enough of a pass rush to kind of hold up there. So I get caught in a little bit of no man's land at quarterback and had to kind of move on the fly, but this is fun. I really enjoyed this exercise, and I kind of wish I'd thought of this sooner.
Oh, it was definitely a fun exercise to kind of let play out. Guys, appreciate you joining us here on the Journey to the Draft podcast. We're going to take a little bit of a break here. The listeners don't know that, but we're going to let Ben Fennell take a look at all of our rosters. We'll let him rank and see how we did, and I'll post all these on Twitter as well, so everybody listening at home can go and let us know what you think about all these rosters. Dane, C-Mac, Eric, thanks once again, and we'll talk to you guys soon. All right, well, time to welcome in my friend Ben Fennell. And Ben, you have taken some time to look at the rosters. The draft finished about a half hour ago, so you've had a time to take a look at the rosters. You have no idea which team is which. Basically, what I did was I sent Ben the list of the 22-man rosters that Dane, Eric, and I have just selected. He's going to take a look and give us his thoughts on which one he liked most, which one he liked second, which one he liked third, and then we'll kind of talk through some players and what swung him one way or the other. Ben, we'll kind of work backwards. Which of the three was the least impressive for you? Which of those 3 drafts were you not as impressed with walking away, taking a look at the rosters?
Probably this team number 3 or team C or whatever we want to categorize these before we peel back the curtain and you tell me which you slappies put these rosters together. But we might as well just kind of go through a quick glance, So team A here, the things that stand out. I see Devante Smith and Kadarius Toney paired together. That's a pretty dynamic receiving and, weapon for the quarterback, Jamie Newman, in this team A. Little concerned about the tackle group. I see James Hudson, the Cincinnati tackle, at left tackle. Dylan Raduns from North Dakota State at right tackle. That's a guy that obviously didn't have a season in the FCS. And James Hudson's essentially a 1-year starter. So a lot of kind of lack of experience around that tackle group there. I love seeing Deontay Brown, Jack Anderson actually at center, and then Ben Cleveland. It's a really good interior in there. Jack Anderson's primarily played right guard in his career. So one of these guys are going to have to snap the ball. I think it's something Deontay Brown has done a little bit in his career as well. And on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of speed at that linebacker group. Jabril Cox and Baron Browning together at linebacker, off ball. That's a lot of like a Levante David, Devin White type of speed, that second level of the defense. This middle team is really interesting. I see Mac Jones and Naji Harris back together again for a swan song in the NFL. It's a fun duo. The receiver group, Tylan Wallace. Not a whole lot of, exciting traits, that are going to wow you. Catches everything, runs really sharp routes, good after the catch, paired with Marquez Stevenson, who I think is one of these unsung, untalked about receivers in this class that just has electric speed. I think someone's going to get him in like early 4th round and just get an absolute steal for their offense. And then just you're talking to me here, Fran. I see Kenny Yaboa, Demetric Felton. I don't know what you're going to call them. I see Demetric Felton. We have in the flex spot, Kenny Yaboa, tight end. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're halfbacks, tight ends, slot receivers, but I want them on my football team. They're really good football players, and that's exactly the type of hybrid bodies. The offensive line, how about Leatherwood and Trey Smith working together? That's Leatherwood just got done working with Deontay Brown, then he gets to work with big Trey Smith, University of Tennessee, an absolute mauler. A couple of Notre Dame guys on the right side, Aaron Banks, Robert Hainsey. Big old edge rushers, Patrick Jones, Cam Sample. That's a good group there. Odigizua and the USC kid there at defensive tackle. A lot of length in the secondary. Melifano, Robert Rochelle, Hamza Nasr-Ladin. Some serious arm length to those kids. Then this third team, really interesting. There's a lot of really kind of what I call the blue collar players. Michael Carter, Amari Rogers, Hunter Long. Those are guys who are just really good football players. The guys might not test particularly well, may not be the most explosive or the sexiest players, but really, really good football players. Love seeing them all kind of on that same team there. And just really quick on the defensive side of this team C, Levi Onwuzurike and Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle. These are two guys that might be able to play inside on early downs and kick out to end in sub packages. I've seen them both do that in their college careers, kind of ball of clays at this point. Heading into the NFL. So I think they can play in a lot of different spots and really interesting secondary group. I'm glad somebody plucked Ambry Thomas out there, who I think is a guy deserving a lot more love at this point in the draft cycle.
All right.
So really fun to kind of go through the rosters here.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you did that. That's terrible hosting by me. I should have teed up those rosters first. So getting to the first part, you think that the column C, that third team, is the weaker of the three so far?
Yeah, I'm just not seeing a lot of explosiveness, a lot of sexiness, for a lot of lack of better word. I see these, the blue collar players like I talked about, Carter and Rogers, and some ball clays like Onwuzurike, Marvin Wilson, some other blue collar types like Surratt and Monty Rice at linebacker. Some really good football players here. But I think this is in year one. This is like an 8-8 team. This is like a middle of the road. I don't think they're going to be generating a lot of explosive plays. But if you're a team that isn't buttoned up heading into a matchup against them, they're going to play good football. They're not going to have a lot of penalties. They're going to be technically sound. But do they have enough juice to beat the top teams in the league? And that's what we'll have to see.
All right. So I'm
already thinking matchups at the next level here. I'm thinking game planning and.
That's why you're the person making these assessments, because you're looking big picture now. So looking at this from a macro point of view, who do you like more? Do you like Team A or do you like Team B? How do you like those two teams stacked up against each other?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I love Team B here. I like Mac Jones and all these weapons around him with Felton, Yaboa, Marquez Stevenson. We have Naji Harris. We got a good O-line to pound the ball. How about Drake Jackson at center? In between Trey Smith and Aaron Banks? Man, I'd be walking that offensive line with my chest puffed out, knowing I have these two big bodyguards to the left and right of me at guard, and Drake Jackson's got a mean streak as well. This is a team that can run the football. It's a cushy environment again for Mac Jones. I think we can work in some RPO and some, quick game, get the ball out to Marquez Stevenson. And I see a lot of athleticism on the defensive side. Grant Stewart, Houston linebacker, came out of high school as a 190-pound safety. Now he's this athletic, tough linebacker. Jacoby Stevens, see a nickel, a safety, a outside linebacker, a defensive end. Some guys that can play a lot of different spots. And like we talked about, that length on the back end. I just think we're checking a lot of boxes here. As far as Team A, Jamie Newman's the quarterback. Ramondre Stevenson. Quentin Morris out of Bowling Green is the tight end. The flex is D. Eskridge. This is kind of the high upside, big risk team. So Jamie Newman transferred to Georgia, didn't play this past year. Quentin Morris, Bowling Green. D. Eskridge, I think he used to be a corner, flipped over to receiver at Western Michigan. One of these sneaky, explosive players in this class. There's a lot of unknown about these players. And we already mentioned James Hudson, Dylan Raduns, the questions about their experience at tackle. So what I'm saying here, Fran, is just a lot more questions. I think on defensive side in the secondary, some really good players. Great to see Richie Grant and Aaron Robinson teamed up together, the UCF teammates with Thomas Graham, Cam Bynum, a lot of experience on that back end behind those athletic linebackers in Jabril Cox and Barrett Browning. Just too many questions as far as when some of these guys are going to be ready, if they're going to be able to contribute right away. You even look on the defensive line, Taquan Graham, Teron Jackson, Payton Turner, Carlos Basham. It's a lot of guys with some really stout play at the point of attack. Not a whole lot of speed, not a whole lot of juice. I think Basham's explosive. He's going to hunt stuff, but I just don't know if there's enough juice in the trenches there on either side of the ball for this Team A to really overpower, this Team B's group.
All right, well, I'm going to take my victory lap because I am Team B. Dane is Team A, and Eric was Team C. To help with your evaluation, you haven't heard this yet, obviously, but Eric went back through and he gave his thoughts on how his team was pulled together, and he wasn't all that thrilled with ultimately how it came out. He said he was second guessing himself all along the way. So Ben has given his thoughts. Guys at home, everybody at home listening, I'd love it to get your thoughts. So whether you go on social media or if you go on our Apple Podcast page, leave us a comment with who you feel drafted the best team. Would love to hear from everybody out there to kind of get your thoughts.
And really quick, Fran, before we put this to bed, might as well go just position by position to say, who would have I subbed out? Now, I don't know the pecking order, so I don't know who went number one or who went last, but quarterback group, I'm probably going to go with the Felipe Franks over Jamie Newman at this point. I think Franks is a little bit more of a finished body of work. I think we know what we're getting, having seen him in Florida and the Arkansas. The running back group, I see Ramondre Stevenson. That means you're choosing him over Khalil Herbert, who I really like out of Virginia Tech, the Kansas transfer. Kylan Hill flashed some really good ability early on, then opted out of the season. Receiver, there's some guys sitting here on the bench. Nico Collins, Frank Darby, about Cornell Powell at Clemson, Shai Smith, Austin Watkins. I know me and you are both really big fans of that UAB receiver. He's an absolute beast with a vertical element. The tight end group, Quentin Morris of Bowling Green went. That means he went over Noah Gray at Duke, who's played a lot of good ball. Or how about Ben Mason at Michigan? Former defensive lineman. He's a fullback, H-back. He's a guy looking just to bite your ankles at the bottom of the pile there. Maybe Dan Campbell takes him up in Detroit. He'll fit right in.
Bite some kneecaps, yep.
Yeah, it's a lot. I have issues with the board line. I see the Wisconsin Whitewater kid sitting here. He's going to be a good player. David Moore at Grambling is going to be a good player. Yeah. No issues on the offensive line. I think you guys did a good job there at the pecking order. Defensive tackle as well. No real issues. Linebacker. Tough to really, poke and prod at that. I think the guys sitting here on the board here have a lot of questions. Riley Cole's knee injuries, Tony Fields, positional fit, Patty Fisher, if he has the athleticism, Derek Barnes needs to find a positional fit at the next level. Corner as well. No real issues here. I think there's a couple interesting bodies, especially those 6'2", 6'3" guys I see sitting down there. We'll talk about them later. And then safety, no issues as well. Mark Webb, Christian Uphoff, the only two that didn't get taken. So really fun exercise here, kind of going through and just seeing the flavors and who you guys are most interested in and coming up with a, for lack of a better word, a pecking order of prospects for the Senior Bowl week.
Yeah, I feel like it was a good way to kind of set the table for us going into the week. Two things off what you said. Number one, wide receiver. Definitely. I mean, there were so many players that could have gone off. I mean, we took 6 receivers. Really, we took 8 receivers if you count the flex position. You could have made arguments for another 6 or 7 that could have been, that were worthy draft picks. I felt like there's a lot of guys in this receiver group that are definitely going to hear their names called. A majority of these guys are going to hear their names called once we get to April. The other one is going to the opposite side of the coin. Corner dried up fast. And you could see I took Melifonwu in the second round, and then Aaron Robinson went, I think, the first pick of the third round. After that, a corner didn't go for a long time, and I think that kind of speaks to the fact that we weren't really crazy about the talent at corner, and just ultimately, a lot of those guys are kind of similar. So I'm interested to see, just kind of turning it to this week, who's able to separate themselves during the week of practice, because we know how much those one-on-one reps, how often those are watched and how they're valued. I'm wondering which of these corners is really going to help himself here this week.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Fran. And my last takeaway, the one thing I'm putting in my pocket after doing this exercise and taking back to the lab.
Yeah.
I see here in the draft pecking order who went where.
Yep.
Fran took Ifeatu Melifonwu with the 5th overall pick here.
Yep.
So that tells me something, that Fran thinks very highly of Melifonwu, probably a little bit higher than I have him right now. And I need to go back and kind of check my notes and check the tape on that. So that's my one real big takeaway, that I'm excited to go back and check his tape, because if Fran thinks he's the 5th overall player off the board here down at the Senior Bowl week, that definitely opened my eyes to him and somebody I want to go recheck the tape.
And to be fair, corner, as I mentioned, was a little shallow, so I wanted to make sure I got one of those two guys.
No question.
I had
if you
him.
Didn't have one, you go get him.
No question. And I had the question of, do I take him or Aaron Robinson? And I thought there was a chance maybe I'd get both if Dane passed. I thought, oh, maybe I'll get both guys. But I was like, all right, I want to make sure I get Melifonwu. And I got Robinson was snatched up from me. Dane took him on the turn. But I think those two guys, and I know I mentioned it earlier in the draft, but Robinson went in Daniel Jeremiah's first-round mock draft on Friday. I know he's a guy that you studied and you really like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really happy to see Aaron Robinson sneak in there at the back end of round one. A guy, me and you really liked his tape. Guy that can play corner, safety, nickel. He's even been formation into some will linebacker roles as well. I finished up his tape the other day. I had no problem writing down Antrell Roll as a comp, a guy that kind of played all over the place in college, coming out of the U, then immediately goes to the New York Giants and the Arizona Cardinals and plays a lot of different hybrid roles: the safety, the nickel, the linebacker, good blitzer, good run support, tall, long, fast. And the one thing I love about Aaron Robinson, always communicating pre-snap, always talking to his teammates pre-snap, looking to make checks and adjustments with the safeties and linebackers in front of him, always knowing his assignments. And he's a guy that sometimes got formation into the box and had to do some dirty work. And he seemed more than willing to do it. So I love his floor, for lack of a better word. I think he's a very safe player in this class. And the fact that somebody like a Daniel Jeremiah is putting him into round one, that does not go unnoticed. So that tells me not only does DJ believe in that, he's probably hearing that as well from the league.
One guy I did think about taking with my second edge spot was a guy I know that you studied recently and that you really like. And it was a late addition to the game. That's Chauncey Golson, the defensive end from Iowa. Can you just share with the listeners what you like from Golson when you watched him?
Yeah, this is an interesting player. This is a powerful pass rusher that can slide into 3-tech and some sub packages, but we all love the sacks. We love him affecting the quarterback. This guy's a good run defender. He will ragdoll tight ends. He sets really physical edges against tackles. Has no problem stacking and shedding blocks. I thought he had good enough range to make plays out to the numbers and to string some runs out to the sideline. I love his ability to play up and down the defensive line. I love Iowa trench football, Fran. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Brandon Scherfs and the Mike Daniels of the world. I love watching A.J. Epinesa last year, Larrick Jackson. Go get yourself an Iowa Hawkeye. And that's what I kind of feel about, watching him or Anthony Nelson last year, Davion Nixon. These guys are strong players. They have a great strength and conditioning program. They're typically NFL ready. And Golson was just a guy I didn't get to yet. And he flashed watching the tape, and I was really surprised just how much I liked his tape and how little I knew about him up to this point. So I'm really excited to see him down there. I believe he was also at the NFLPA Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. And a couple guys, when I tweeted about him last week, said this is a guy that had a really good week of practice or flashed. I may be mistaken on what that game is. I'm blanking on which ones exist and which ones didn't. But I know there's been a couple guys at the Senior Bowl that also were at some previous games.
We talked about Melifonwu and Aaron Robinson earlier, and they're both bigger corners. And there were a couple of late additions to the cornerback group as well that I just want to get your thoughts on before we let you go. And that's Benjamin St. Juste from Minnesota and then Darren Hall from San Diego State. Both players went undrafted in our mock draft, so I wanted to make sure we talked about him here. What did you see from both of those guys in your film study?
So Darren Hall is an interesting player. He was over at San Diego State. He was a guy that moved from safety to corner in 2018. So he's a guy that has the size, has the physicality, the play temperament to stick his nose in and run and to kind of help out tackling on the perimeter. Just struggles to find the ball down the field at times and some of the ball skill stuff. I was surprised that he got the nod over the safety at San Diego State, Tariq Thompson, who was a 4-year starter, 47 games played, over 3,000 snaps, turnover machine with 12 picks and 7 forced fumbles in his career. If anybody wants to watch some fun tape, Tariq Thompson, any of those San Diego State defensive backs, Dwayne Johnson Jr. So a couple other guys. How about, tall, long corner Keith Taylor out of Washington, who's 6'2", with track speed. He'll be down at the Senior Bowl. But Benjamin St. Juste, I think it's Juste. He's from Canada. He's from Quebec. He's a Montreal kid, which really seems to be getting steam over the last couple of years, whether it's Chubba Hubbard, Chase Claypool, John Mechie down in Alabama. I know there's a bunch of other ones I'm blanking on right now, but Canada's starting to pump out some prospects.
Neville
Gallimore is another one. Josh Palmer was another one. But I put on this St. Josue's tape. I watched a lot of Minnesota last year. Watched Chris Williamson at Florida. Watched Antoine Winfield, Kamal Martin. Minnesota, a lot of good defenders go to the NFL. I didn't notice him playing corner for the entire season. This kid's 6'3", 200 pounds with long limbs, tall, broad, and he's surprisingly quick. He has light feet. He has really loose hips. But to remember, he was a 4-star Michigan transfer. So he was a guy that was really highly touted coming out of the country of Canada, ended up transferring, has played some really good ball down there for Minnesota. I don't think he's a finished product yet. Reminds me a little bit of Tremaine Johnson. What is he coming out of? Tremaine Johnson coming out of Montana, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I just got paid a couple of years ago. Another big, tall, physical press corner. Or maybe Thurl Simon. Remember him coming to LSU years ago? I mean, you knew he had the size and the athleticism. Just didn't really know what he was yet. In Seattle, always like to take some flyers on some hybrid players. I think they tried to move him to like a nickel safety role. But Josue is another guy that may not have his positional fit settled yet at 6'3", 200 pounds. He may move to safety. He may move to nickel. He's got the size and the physicality. But long story short, Chauncey, Golson, Josue, some really interesting bodies here added to the game late.
Yeah, it's we've got a few days left here that we're going to continue breaking down all these top prospects. Obviously, practice starts. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, practice starts today. So we'll be breaking it down every single day moving forward here on the Journey to the Draft podcast, driven by AAA. Ben, thanks for helping us put a ribbon on today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down all the action from day one right here on the Journey to the Draft podcast, driven by AAA.